In this compilation, we peek into the crystal ball of content creation as we discuss emerging trends and future possibilities in the creator economy. From virtual influencers to global content strategies, discover what's next for creators and their audiences. In this clip, we speak with Jordi van den Bussche, also known as Kwebbelkop, a hugely successful YouTuber and entrepreneur. Jordi shares insights on his decade-long journey as a content creator, his ventures into virtual influencers, and his predictions for the future of the creator economy.
About 10 years ago, I started making YouTube videos just for fun as a hobby, and that grew into a full-fledged career, a business, and a lot of other businesses around it. The platform has very much become much more professional, matured a lot. When I got started, it was everyone had a one-man army, and that was it. And now you see creators who have a business, who have multiple people running it. I started off doing a lot of gaming content, and then later on did I transition more into personality-based content, where the content revolves around what I do and what I do with my friends, and more story-based around my life. Right now we're doing vlogs, and sometimes I do some crazy things in vlogs, and that's what people really like. Yeah, so in these 10 years, it wasn't easy, right? To get a lot of fan subscribers and things like that. It really came with its challenges. So things that happened were neglecting relationships and neglecting your own mental health and physical health. Just to put out another video or to get even more views. And the challenge there has always been in keeping that healthy balance. It took me years to finally get a healthy balance. So what have I done right now? I say from 9 to 5 I work, and in the weekends I don't work. I take holidays and just accept the fact that it can't always go perfect. At first, it was only AdSense revenue. Then we started investing more into PR. Started getting more deals out of that. We started finding lovely partners we could partner up with. So that really helped take the pressure off just the YouTube views. Then other things we've done, like I've experimented with merchandise, but not really my thing. So what else? We started some other channels that don't involve me at all in the day-to-day. Built and released a video game. We're building another game right now. Obviously, what I personally did was throughout the years, I saved a lot of money, my YouTube money, and I decided to buy a bunch of real estate. So I have a real estate business on the side.
Can you just share some of your thoughts about how you think the future of the creator economy will involve these kind of virtual influencers?
I see a future where almost every influencer is a virtual influencer. I've been saying this for years, and now it's slowly starting to happen. So I'm super happy to see that. Creating content is slowly becoming more and more accessible to everyone. What we're going to start seeing is that this AI revolution that we're experiencing right now is going to make it much cheaper for people to participate and do all these things, much faster for people to do all these things, and much more accessible for people to do all these things.
What are the first things that people have challenged you on in terms of creating these fake or virtual?
I would say the biggest feedback point is that people say, oh, but it's fake. You will never be able to convey real personality and have people create a connection. And I agree. It's hard, but it's possible. It's really hard. So the example I love to give is I love Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's not real. And Spider-Man always has a different actor. But I still love Spider-Man. And I feel like I have a connection with Spider-Man when I'm in the movies.
Can you share some predictions for the year ahead, just in terms of some of the things that you think we may see in the next year or so?
I expect hyper-realistic AI-generated videos. I would say by the end of this year even. Hyper-realistic in a way that it is not a portrait talking or whatever. No, it's like you say, I want to have 5 Lamborghinis driving next to each other, jumping through fiery hoops. And it generates this hyper-realistic that you will not be able to distinguish it from the actual real thing. That's going to change a lot. I'm expecting the same thing for potentially VR. That might be 2 years away, where you can generate a fully hyper-realistic VR experience with the diffusion model. That's going to change a lot of stuff. I'm expecting 3D environments and game design to become much more productive. And in general, producing anything on the computer or that the computer could produce, I'm expecting a massive cost reduction.
In this clip, we're featuring highlights from my conversation with Sasha Kaletsky, founding partner of Creator Ventures. Sasha brings a unique perspective to the creator economy, combining his background in private equity with his experience co-founding Creator Ventures alongside YouTuber Casper Lee.
We started actually as an investment club, and now we're a venture fund. So the genesis of it is that I was working in private equity at a firm called Bridgepoint, doing large cap buyouts and growth equity in the kind of consumer and technology space in London. Casper Lee, my co-founder, is actually my cousin. So that's how we know each other. We've always been friends. And he's a content creator, started making videos in 2010. At first grew his channel very slowly for the first couple of years, and then kind of quite rapidly expanded to almost 7 million subscribers on YouTube and 5 million on Twitter and various more on different platforms. And so he co-founded a business called influencer.com in 2017. That's one of the largest platforms that connects brands and content creators. So he's kind of got the creator side and the business side. So in 2019, we started investing together in early stage companies. He was getting a lot of deal flow into his inbox. He would then send that to me. As you can imagine, with most kind of cold inbound deal flow, there's a mix of quality, but there were some good ones in there. And I thought, well, actually, I know quite a lot of VCs who could send us even more and potentially even better deals. So we teamed up, started investing together, and decided to share all of our deal flow with other content creators, celebrities, athletes, musicians, people like that. And so we went from there and started doing it. We didn't charge them any fees. We didn't do any sweat equity. It was a total side gig. So I was working full time in private equity at the time, and so it was pretty busy. But we basically just ran this on the side, and ended up getting into some deals that performed really well. We got really lucky with some of them, and then we used that track record of investing alongside this investment club of creators to raise our first venture fund, which we closed at $20 million in March of this year. So we break it into four kind of pretty overlapping and not necessarily perfect verticals, but we call them consumer social. That's our first one. That includes gaming and social apps and all those kinds of activities. People are interacting with each other via the internet. The second one we do is marketplaces, which is, I used to work at Uber before working in private equity. So I'm really into these kind of marketplace economics and all that kind of stuff. The third one we do, which obviously you're obviously a big expert on, is the creator economy side of things. That includes, all kinds of creativity workflows, and some kind of business in the box stuff for creators, but that's less what we're focused on, but we do it. And then finally, e-commerce and e-commerce enablement. We ended up getting to over 500, which was pretty, actually, that sounds easy. It's actually really hard. And it was a lot of work for him. But it was a super detailed spreadsheet. We found that 40% of creator founded businesses were fashion companies, were selling clothes. 20% were beauty. So 60% were just fashion and beauty, which is completely crazy to me, at least. And then there was a kind of another 35% that was mixed between, all kinds of miscellaneous stuff like, games and jewelry and various other stuff. And less than 5% were B2B businesses. One of the kind of key conclusions for me coming from that was, I think more creators should be starting B2B businesses and using their audience and leverage to help scale B2B rather than just selling products to their audiences. So the way we think about it really is there's kind of there's almost a spectrum in social media platforms between, on the one side, you've got follower platforms where people open the app in order to see their favorite creator. On the other side, you have basically a content platform which is where somebody opens the app not to follow their favorite specific creator, but just generally to be entertained. TikTok is a really good example of this, where they open up, they're kind of addicted to the feed rather than being addicted to the creator. And so what it's led to is this kind of generation of creators on TikTok who ultimately can get, 5 million plus followers and get, 100 million views a month, but who don't truly have an audience that are actually loyal to them, which I think underlines how important it is for them to bring their audiences onto different platforms, but also to monetize and engage and make sure they pull their audience into something they can actually make business from as quickly as possible. I think the size of the total monetization opportunity in Web3 will continue to increase, in the sense of more brands are going to be wanting more money through social media ads. And of those social media ads, more of that is going to go to influencers. But I think influencer marketing's mix increase is probably going to outpace the overall macro reduction in ad spend. The problem, I think, is that because there are so many more creators, I think the kind of monetization per creator could actually end up going down quite a bit. I think it's going to be a really tough year for actual creators. And I think we're going to start seeing more and more creators basically getting other jobs, focusing on other career options, and generally kind of being a creator more into something they do rather than something they are. I also think some of the direct monetization platforms, not just the Web3 ones, but also the mainstream ones, are going to really struggle. And I think a lot of creators that have been reliant on charging their audiences directly for their content are also going to struggle.
In this clip, we're featuring highlights from my conversation with Farbod Mansorian, founder of Unilingo. Farbod's company help content creators translate and dub their videos into multiple languages, opening up new global audiences. In this clip, you'll hear about Unilingo's origin story, their approach to translation, and Farbod's insights on the future of AI dubbing and the creator economy.
I converted it from English to Spanish and I uploaded it to YouTube and didn't think much of it. And then I looked at my phone one day and the video had 2.5 million views. 80% of the world does not speak English. If you're a top creator with billions of views, you almost owe it to your audience to translate your content. Unilingo was started for really viewers. Unilingo was started because we wanted to bring access to good content in underutilized, in emerging markets. We understood that majority of the content in the world is being created in English, and yet there are hundreds of millions of people in other parts of the world that do not have access to this content simply because they don't speak the language. And it was really just the love of let's connect creators to a global audience. If you're a top creator with billions of views, you almost owe it to your audience to translate your content. 80% of the world does not speak English. So every time a creator makes content in one language, they're leaving money and views on the table. That's how we look at it. We want to help. Unilingo is going to be the single system of record for creators to be able to translate, distribute, and manage a global audience. Now, having worked with many, many creators over the years, what we've seen is if you have 1 billion views and you're going to Spanish, within about 12 months, you're likely to unlock an additional 10% of views in that market. So let's say you have 1 billion views and you're going to 10 markets, you have the potential based on what we've seen with previous creators.
What's next for Unilingo?
We know that there is a storm of dubbing companies coming to the market. We know that we need to move fast. At some point, if you fast forward to 100 years from now, there will be content that is fully converted from one language to another without the touch of a human. I'm a mechanical engineer. My co-founder he left Facebook and he's just in love with where the market is headed. So really what's next for Unilingo is how can we implement synthetic voice, true lip sync, emotions and such in parts of the process that doesn't really affect the the viewing experience.
What sort of changes do you imagine or expect to see with the creator economy over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, Unilingo is not in the dubbing space. Unilingo is in the creator economy. Unilingo is in the business of helping creators. You know, the reason why we did dubbing, one of the reasons was we saw that dubbing was this sort of expensive luxury way of localizing that was really reserved for the big producers, Netflix, HBO, Discovery, but creators couldn't afford it. It was too expensive. So we wanted to make dubbing accessible and affordable for creators. And I kind of see this shift from these giant institutions to creator-based companies.
In this clip, we're featuring highlights from my conversation with Avi Gandhi, a veteran executive in the creator economy. Avi has worked with major companies like WME, Wheelhouse, and Patreon over his 14-year career. He shares insights on working with creators, monetization strategies, and emerging trends in the industry.
I started my career on the agency side and at WME. Was one of the first talent agents in Hollywood to work with digital creators. To that, I jumped into the gaming space, going back to Hollywood, joining Brett Montgomery and Jimmy Kimmel's content studio, went to Patreon, where I was until last summer, leading their creator partnerships team. And then last year, I started my current business, partner with creators, digital media, and specifically creator economy advisory and consulting. And I also launched my newsletter, Creator Logic.
Maybe if you could share a couple of projects or creators you've worked with and the lessons you've learned over the last few years.
The biggest sort of lesson I've learned and biggest through line throughout my career working with creators is that, whatever you're going to do with creators, you got to have them bought into it.
Do you think creators should be taking advantage of this now, or should they just not get distracted by it at this point in time?
I think it's really more about help as a brainstorming assistant, help with getting the ideas going, help with kickstarting search or organizing information, that kind of thing. It's less about actually being creative. Keeping the terms very simple, keeping them very clear, keeping the agreements short. That's how you can move fast and scale these sorts of deals.
What are your thoughts on YouTube Shorts and how that's going to pan out in the future?
The problem with shorts is that they're short. Your watch time is low, and it's easier to get more views and more more eyeballs on shorter pieces of content, but that's not actually driving real watch time, which then doesn't monetize well. One of my biggest learning from Patreon, and it was a tough one, was that paywalls and paid content doesn't work for every creator. But the reality is a lot of creators, despite having passionate audiences, are going to be unable to move product. Digital products, physical products, subscriptions, whatever it is. Since 2020, there's been a whole new demographic that's entered the creator economy, which is, what I like to tongue-in-cheek call grown-ups. Today, since 2020, now we have a whole new super category of creators, which are these sort of professionals making content about how to be successful.
Thank you for listening. Please hit subscribe to hear from the pioneers shaping the creator economy.